Jeff, what technology opportunities are you most excited for in the United States, and what could apply to Australian growers as well?
Yeah, so traveling around Australia, it was awesome to see a bunch of different growing sites, visit with growers, see what they were doing and trying. On my farm, a couple of the technologies that we are utilizing, one is the Prosper out of Robotics Plus, their spray system, which is modular as well, autonomous. And we have two of those on our ranch in Washington, and we've been using them the entire season and having really good results with them. So we've been excited about that technology. The other one is Advanced Farm and their robotic apple harvesting. They are very close to pre-commercial. We feel that next year they might be pre-commercial with their machine. We will be hosting them, and they will be picking apples for us all season long with one machine. They'll have two of them going in Washington, and we'll be hosting one of them all season next year.
Jeff, there's been large changes in Washington in the last 10 years as far as farm ownership and management. Is there any parallels that you see in Australia?
Yeah, so hearing about a few of their parallels from growers, we are seeing private equity show up in Washington in a big way. They have probably tripled the amount of acres that they are growing in Washington in the last decade. So the family farm portion is changing. A lot of family farms are now management groups for some large investors. So it is definitely changing the landscape in Washington. And we're all figuring out the new dynamic as to how to be successful in this new change.
What does a successful family farm operation look like?
Yeah, so good question. I think that to find a successful family farm operation, you look at good production numbers, diversification of portfolio, which means they're growing probably apples or pears, cherries, all of those are in the mix. Maybe they've even added a cider retail. They may have added a roadside stand, those kind of things. So they're diversifying their portfolio so that if one is down, it hurts a little bit, but it's not devastating to cash flow. So I think that that's one of the things. The other is that they're producing high quality fruit and lots of it. So they have figured out the secret formula to grow high quality, high production orchards that are just kicking out fruit that is targeted for the market, is exactly what they're looking for.
Jeff, how do you transition from a more instinctive crop load management to a precision style?
So for us, the transition, it takes a little time to set up the tree, but within a year or two, it's pretty easy to do as long as you start off with a higher density orchard where you can start to count. What we do is, if I want 100 apples per tree in a higher density planting, I need to break it down into quadrants using wire and trees, the trellis system, to break it into quadrants where the pruner doesn't have to count beyond 10 because the human eye can count to 10 pretty quickly and can kind of size things up. So we use that as our rule of thumb because to count to 100 takes way too long per tree. So we break it down into quadrants and then we make a pruning plan for each of those quadrants so that it's easy to translate for the pruner so that we can go into a block with only basically 2 rules. 3 is the max we would ever do, and we use that. So we start off with saying how many apples per tree, then we break it down to the quadrant, and then we start our pruning to get that number of fruiting sites. So if I want 100, I'm gonna leave about a 15% buffer, so now I'm at 115, and then I'm gonna add the percentage to that of resting flower buds that we have checked in the dormant season so that we know what percentage left behind is floral and which ones are vegetative. And then we adjust that number to give us the final. So if it's 15% resting and I get 15% over, we're gonna be right there at about 130 buds left behind or fruiting sites left behind on that tree.
Jeff, could you highlight how the Washington state industry collaborates together to collectively raise quality and the benefits from that?
Yeah, great question. I think collaboration across the industry is very high in Washington. That's what other industries tell us when they come visit. I kind of jokingly say that in Washington, each of us has our 5% secret sauce, and the other 95% we are very collaborative on because we're not going to solve it by ourselves. And so we work very closely together as an industry. And one of those things is if we can figure out how to raise the quality bar or produce higher quality fruit, then we would love to share that, because quality raises all boats when it's a tide. So when quality raises, everybody raises, and it's beneficial for the entire industry, not just for that one grower. So production might be a different side of the equation. Maybe that falls in the secret sauce, but if we can figure out quality and share that amongst the industry, it just benefits all of us to produce a higher quality piece of fruit.
Jeff, could you highlight how packout data is important and the role that it plays in decision making that you make as a production manager?
Yeah. I mean, packout data is really the knowledge piece that you have to have for your decision making. I guess I was shocked in Australia that they don't really get their packout data for what their cull breakdown is. So what we call a cull analysis in Washington would be considered a reject analysis here in Australia, but it means the same thing. Why are those apples not making it to the final box and are of a grade that doesn't allow them to be packed? So we find it's very important. So every packout comes with a 100 apple sample typically in Washington, and it just breaks down what all the culls are. Because if I don't know what I need to change, then next year I'm less effective in whatever my management style or skill or whatever insect or pest or disease that I am facing. I don't know what caused the issue, so it's very difficult to make the changes in the orchard that I need to make without that data. So I would encourage the growers in Australia to go ask their warehouses to just have the quality control person do that as part of their job. Pull 100 apples off the cull belt and give me what they are. Identify them.